So I have a few things on my mind today. I really want to talk about the future of VR development and, by extension, AR development. Because I've seen a lot of articles recently talking about how VR is dead, and it's just so short-sighted. The articles do get one thing right. VR has not had the explosive mainstream growth that we had hoped for. But it's still a new technology. It's not like VR from the 90s, that headache-inducing garbage. It's nothing like that. But perhaps it just ties into the issue of average American ignorance when it comes to technology. Granted, maybe it's not an American thing, but I'm an American. Most people I talk to are American. It's my really only frame of reference. It's incredibly frustrating to see so many people that are ignorant about technology. I mean, in places that I've gone and people that I've talked to, if you know even a little bit about computers, you're considered to be some kind of genius by the average person, which is ridiculous because it doesn't take a genius to figure out why your internet isn't working. Computers are a broad topic. I get that. And I don't expect the average person to even be able to program a game or develop applications or even design a web page, to be honest. But people don't even seem to realize how we got here. Like, what technology led us to where we are. They don't seem to realize how any of their technology works. Do people realize that the internet as we use it today literally did not exist 20 years ago? Granted, the internet itself has existed for decades, but in the current context of how we use the internet, it wasn't a thing. Someone was even arguing with me yesterday about whether or not automation is now or will ever be a threat. And I don't understand how that's even a question. Unless you have not been paying attention at all, it's already here. It has been for a while. And it's not going to slow down. For instance, go into a Walmart or a McDonald's, you'll notice self-checkouts and self-ordering kiosks. They've been around for a while, but they're increasing steadily to be more prevalent than they were before. My local McDonald's, for instance, only has 2 real cash registers and 4 of the self-ordering kiosks. They don't even have people manning the cash registers anymore. Unless someone makes a fuss about it, everyone just uses the self-ordering kiosks, which is great. Because nobody wants to be a cashier anyway. Nobody wants to deal with that job. Customers universally suck. Some people think it's a bad thing, but it's not. Nobody wants to be a cashier. And it's not like I'm trying to look down on these people that have that job either. It needs to be done. But if we could eliminate that job so that no human had to endure that ever again, that would be fantastic. Older people in particular seem to not understand the progression of technology either, which seems insane to me, seeing as, depending on their age, they were around for it. When computers were little to nothing to being necessary for every part of our daily lives now. Were they just not paying attention? Perhaps the problem is it's not like what's portrayed in sci-fi, in books or movies, none of that. It's not the flip of a switch. It isn't overnight. We don't just wake up with new technology. It's just not how it works. It's a slow, gradual build with a tipping point. For instance, if you told someone in 2005 that within 5 years, everyone in America would have a smartphone, they would think you were crazy. But fast forward to around 2010, they were catching fire. Nearly everyone had a smartphone. And I'm not sure there's a word for this phenomenon, but it happens with many technologies. It's a slow, gradual build up to a tipping point, and then it's a rapid acceleration with adoption. The most recent example of this is probably electric cars. Sure, not everyone has one yet, but we're at the tipping point. Within a year or two, everyone is going to start buying electric vehicles over gasoline cars. every major manufacturer is investing in them. You can't even really operate in the modern world at all without some type of smart device. Do you want to get a job? Applications are online. Do you want to do business? You need an email. Do you want to file your taxes? It's easier online. Do you want to order pizza and not talk to a person at a store? Do it online. You can do everything online pretty much. Speaking of pizza on a slightly unrelated note, you know Domino's has their API exposed where you can write a third-party program to programmatically order pizza? That's fascinating that they have their system exposed like that. If I wanted to write a program to order me pizza, I would use a combination of web automation technologies like Selenium to automate the web forms. It's cool that they just expose it for third parties to use. I might make a video about that in the future, because I think that's fascinating, and you might as well if you're watching this channel, to be honest. But back to the point at hand, there's always this tipping point where technology goes from being this cool new hot thing that early adopters and wealthy people have to being something that's so widespread and mainstream that pretty much anyone can afford it and it's considered a normal part of daily life. And automation is getting there. I truly believe with everything in me that within 5, maybe 10 years, Walmart will have absolutely no cashiers. There's only a couple reasons I can think of why we even still have them in the first place. The first being that we still require ID checks for things like alcohol and tobacco. Now, in Virginia, I know that's ridiculous, seeing as I know for a fact they have the ability to scan your ID and get the information off of there, such as your birth date. If that technology is not ready to be used in stores, it definitely will be within the next 5 years. The second reason being older people that refuse to use self-checkout, usually for the ridiculous notion of, I don't work here. Look, Karen, I'm sorry you feel that way, but it's not society's fault that you were a brat that had everything handed to you. It's not society's fault that you don't want to do anything for yourself. You're part of the society. Society's moving towards automation. There's nothing you can do about that. Perhaps another problem is a lot of people don't seem to be able to think outside the box. I mean, don't you have any original ideas of your own? That's why not a lot of people are entrepreneurs. They just work a job until they die. They don't do anything. I don't get it. What kind of life is that? If I'm using a hammer to build a house, and I want it to go faster, I have a couple of options. I can use a nail gun. I can use a drill. One thing I will not do is hire 10 more people to also use a hammer. And some people can't seem to understand that. Sometimes you need a better tool. Whether that's in the form of a nail gun or a drill, sometimes a hammer is not the answer. It's kind of the same thing when people think that we're going to be using smartphones forever. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be around for a little bit more while yet. But the moment someone comes up with a commercially viable product, something that isn't $3,000 or wasn't universally hated like Google Glass, as much as I hate Apple, the moment Apple comes out with Apple glasses that can display everything that your smartphone displays on a screen or a projection right above your eye, the moment they do that, smartphones will cease to be a thing within 1 to 2 years after that product comes out. The current push is for larger and larger displays, which the future isn't about larger displays and smaller form factors. I mean, don't get me wrong, foldable phones are cool, foldable screens are cool, but they're just a stepping stone. The future is not foldable screens. The future is projected screens directly onto your eyeball or transparent displays that, due to perspective, look just as large, if not larger, than a cell phone screen would, with all the same functionality without you having to actually hold a phone. I don't know what happened. I don't know how America failed so hard with technological literacy. We have such high concentrations in some parts of the country, such as California, New York, Washington State, Colorado. The big one, of course, being Silicon Valley in California. We all know about Silicon Valley. But there are some parts of the country that struggle to operate an ATM. How do we have such a large gap in knowledge? I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what the answer is. But everyone should know how their technology they use on a daily basis works. At a very basic level. I mean, I'm not a mechanic, but I understand how a motor works. Not that it's exactly irrelevant, seeing as I drive an electric car, but still, you get my point. And I don't think people should be like me. I don't expect people to be like me. I get it. I am a freak. I don't know why, but I absorb knowledge like a sponge unnaturally. I always have. But everyone should know how their smartphone works. Everyone should know how a computer works. And so many people in America don't. I don't know how to educate people like that. How do you educate people who don't know that they need to be educated or don't even want to be educated? I don't know the answer. Anyway, that was kind of a rant that went off the rails of what the original topic was supposed to be, but as you can probably tell, I get a little fiery about these kinds of things. Anyway, like, dislike, subscribe, do those things, you know. I'll see you tomorrow.